Now it's defining with these students, what is it that they would like to be? Do you want to just make some money and just not have a regular gig and play drums and have some fame? Does that dopamine rush, is that enough for you? If so, be an internet drummer. You can. Or does music pull you? And are you interested in performing with other people and like locking in with a bass player and like really feeling something? Or do you want to compose? You have to kind of separate the two and choose. And you don't have to choose one exclusively, but you just have to know what your thing is, where your heart is.
All right, cool. So I got it. Man, I came so close to wearing that shirt today. I'm really glad I didn't.
This is my, you know what's funny is this is the one that I got paint on it, like painting one of these wall, and so like now it's my work shirt. So I'm gonna need to go visit Bryson and the lads and get a fresh batch.
Get a new one, yeah.
Fresh batch.
I like it. I guess we can jump right in here and
man,
and get going.
Been?
What's that?
I said, how you been? Your place looks great.
I've been good, man. Thank you very much. It's
is that the place? Is that the place down south? You bought like a commercial building and like goosed it all up?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's the place. It took us a year and a half to get it right, and now we're hosting drum camps and all of that. Which, okay. By the way, we jumped into this. Welcome to our conversation. We are opening registration for drum camps. If you're watching this for 2024, they sold out in 2 weeks last year. So jump on those. The link will be, I don't know where it is these days, in the description or the episode or whatever it is. It is somewhere. Look for it.
The link will be in the ether.
It'll be in the ether. Yeah, this is the spot. So it's come along, and I enjoy having a place to come to work. So
I got to come see it, man. It looks beautiful. I remember you posting a picture of it was gutted, and I was like, oh, that's going to be cool. And then next thing I know, you were done. So I obviously missed an entire year of build.
Yeah, the guy that was redoing it, I told him at one point when we got done with the demo, I said, well, I can't come back down here for a while until you fix it. And he said, why not? And I said, because I want to burn it down. Because I think I bought a big pile of trash. He's like, just hang in there, man. It's part of the process. I'm like, okay, well. Yeah.
It's easy to say when part of the process isn't emptying your bank account.
Exactly. And it's a whole other thing when it's a problem you've created that you don't know how to fix personally. That's a huge, stressor for me. So
for sure.
But anybody that's watching or listening to this is Kevin Murphy. Kevin is a fantastic drummer here in the Nashville area, and he's been going at it, 25, 26 years now?
Oh, I wish it was that few.
Yeah, we'll say it's that few. Kevin's 37, and
I'm just a very rough-looking 37. I think I left. I think I went on the road. Matter of fact, not to name drop or whatever, but I went and saw my friend Butch, JoJo, and I went and saw my friend Butch Walker play the other night, and he and I were talking. I met him my first year on the road, which was 30 years ago. This past May.
Oh, so, very cool.
30.
So happy 30. Happy 30. Kevin's been out with everybody under the sun. Gosh, Tonic, Randy Hauser. Let me see if I can remember them. Frankie Ballard, Chuck Wicks, Dierks Bentley, Big and Rich, Josh Gracin, Jimmie's Chicken Shack, and he's currently out with Jon Pardi.
I am.
So how's the year been going?
Man, I will be honest with you, not to get too heavy right out of the gates, but JoJo and I were talking the other night about how just utterly despondent I was when I was let go from my last gig, 5 years ago. And I was just like, I was in this period where I was in my 40s and I was like, I'm never going to work again, baby. I'm old. I didn't go to LA, when Tonic started to kind of slow down. One of the reasons I came to Nashville and started working out of Nashville was because I was at that time in my 30s and I was like, kind of a big dude in my 30s. I'm not like, I'm not like a skinny, goth model. So LA is probably not going to like recognize me. And at the time I didn't have a ton of friends there. So I came here. And I remember thinking, I'm never, I can't go to LA. I'm never going to work again, And right. now I feel like getting let go from that was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
I love Jon. Love the band. Love playing with the band. I mean, any artist you're going to work for as a hired gun is going to have components of just kind of dealing with their idiosyncratic things as a person. You know, they might be the kind that over explains things. They might be the kind that barks things. You're going to have to adjust kind of, you know, however they disseminate what they want from the music or from you or whatever. And when, you know, when your boss is in a good mood or a bad mood, it matriculates through, you know, I don't know if that's the right word, but it finds its way through everyone, through the bus drivers. Mm-hmm. So that's a weird component of being a hired gun rather than being a band member where you can just be like, yeah, shut up, bro, and go to lunch. You know? But I will say that I've really, I enjoy him. I enjoy the band. I enjoy the crew. And as far as, not that you asked, but as far as the music goes, I'm not a huge fan of what is happening in modern country music. Mm-hmm. Not really my thing. Don't really like it. It all seems a little fake to me. And I love that I'm with, you know, there's a lot of pandering going on. There's a lot of people blustering and singing about stuff that they don't really believe in. And it's not really them. They'll sing like, you know, about being God-fearing and sweethearts and blah, 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 but they're not. And, you know, they'll do overly patriotic stuff just for the sake of kind of getting people to buy it. And that always seems a little gross to me. I love that Jon isn't that in any way. If he's singing a song about beer, it's because when he wrote it, he wanted a beer. And if he's singing a song about hunting, which is something I don't do, I've gone once when I was a child, didn't like it, not going to do it. But I understand that he loves it. So when he writes a song about something like that's very country, it isn't like a tongue-in-cheek thing where he's like pandering to somebody. It's that he is. Yeah. And I appreciate people that are what they are. You know?
Yeah. This podcast is brought to you by the Drum Better Daily program. That's actually my online drum school that I've run now for 12 plus years. Not only have I been playing the drums professionally since the age of 15, I've been teaching since the age of 18. Matter of fact, I talked to one of my first student a few days ago. I actually called him to see if he could sub a gig out for me. Daniel, love you, man. And he's still playing. He's still doing it on a pro level. I would love to have you go check it out at stevensdrumshed.com. You can find a link to that in the show notes or video description, whichever platform you're watching it on. But it truly is a community of like-minded drummers where we are striving to just be the best that we can be at the drums. In addition to over 70 pre-recorded drum courses, there's also a tech talk area where we talk about everything technology related as it pertains to the drums, e-kits, recording, doing videos, all of that stuff. There are forums where you can hang out with the other students as well. We do 2 live video student calls every week that you can join if you'd like to. We do guest artist calls monthly, and I'll even make you a personalized lesson plan if that's what you need. Yes, we talk about the nuts and bolts of drumming. Yes, I give you exercises, but we also talk a lot about how to practice more efficiently, how to practice better, and how to get more out of your practice time. I know you're just like me. You're busy, you're being pulled by work, by family, by friends, by other responsibilities. Whenever you practice, you really want to see gains and have it be productive. That is what we focus on in the Drum Better Daily program. I'll have to say personally, it's been really cool because some of these students I've worked with for over 12 years, we started running drum camps last year in 2022, and I got to meet some of them in person for the first time. Those drum camps have been selling out. They've been just blowing my mind with how much fun they are and how great a time it is to bring the community together in person. A community that was started online and has been going online strong now for over 12 years. I'd love to have you be a part of it. It's interesting because, you know, a lot of what people see, I guess the face of country music these days is what's pushed, you know, the pop country, but there's this whole subculture that's happening, and artists that are selling out arenas, artists that are selling out amphitheaters, and you don't know who they are, and they're the real deal, you know. Sure. A lot of the red dirt scene out of Texas,
Cody and those guys, they're coming up.
Yeah, that crew was amazing. We were out with end of last year with Cody and actually Randy Hauser was on there with us. It was Cody, Randy and us, and yeah, you know, just good people that, I mean, you know, Cody is actually a cowboy. He like rodeos. They have a fake bull that they pull out of the trailer.
So does Jon.
Yeah, it's like, and people are like, is that really a fake? I'm like, well, yeah. What do you think we're doing here? This is actually, Southern rock country music. This is what's happening. So
yeah. And Jon will take breaks. When we take breaks, sometimes I'll be like, yeah, cool. I'm going to go home and like work on some drum stuff, do some sessions for people, see some friends, hang out with my lady and my pups. And Jon will be like, I'm going to my dad's, ranch out in Texas, and we got to brand some cattle, or like he has farming stuff to do.
Yeah.
And even the stuff that isn't what I would do with my time or my extra time. Like I say, I appreciate anyone that does what that is consistent. I like consistency, and I make that joke when I've had that conversation with friends about Redmond, because there are people, and Redmond. I'm not talking out of turn right now. If Redmond was sitting right here, he'd be laughing and pointing and joking with me. But a lot of people give him flack. A lot of people hassle him for being so energetic and being so positive or whatever. And it's like, yeah, you can try to judge him for that if you want, till you hang out with him, and then you realize, oh, he's like that when he wakes up.
Yeah, that's just Rich. Yeah,
He's like, yeah, the cool coffee. He's just very excitable, and he's an educator. The guy wants to be an inspiration. Some people are like, oh, I became famous and I don't really want to be. I won't want that part of the role of notoriety, not even fame. There's a lot of drummers they're like that. Suddenly they have a couple 100,000 followers and they don't want the responsibility of being a role model for children or whatever. Rich desires that, so like that's what he does. So I appreciate things like that. And people like that. So I love my gig for that reason. Everybody involved is what they claim and aspire to be,
Right. Which is a nice spot to be. Sure. And I kind of had a topic I wanted to hash with you.
Please.
Talk around. And so I was, it's been a rough 5 or 6 weeks for drummers because we've lost two that are like heavyweights, Yeah. We lost Dom Famalaro, who, he was the self-proclaimed global ambassador to drumming, right?
A heavyweight of 40 plus years of notoriety, of fame.
And the funny thing about Dom is everybody knew Dom. Everybody had met Dom, even if they're like, I don't know where I met him, but I did meet him. He was so positive. He was
Dom
so.
Dom was that guy that couldn't get out of the building at PASIC.
Yeah.
You like I saw Weckel last year or whatever, just he and his people were just getting out of the building. He was like shaking hands, but you could tell he needed to get to his hotel room and chill out, because he's Dave Weckel.
Yeah.
All of us want to take 30 seconds of his time and tell him what he meant to us, because he meant so much to everyone alive that plays drums, right? And Dom is kind of like that, but Dom would be like, you could tell he would like try to leave at 5, and at like 9:15 he'd be at the front door. He'd be like, exactly whoa, let me take a picture. He really was that ambassador, and I think he may have self-proclaimed it at the beginning, but I don't think anyone would argue that for the last 30 years he's been the guy. He's been this inspiration, and it's amazing that you can do that without some marquee gig.
Yeah, he's been somebody for years that I looked up to as a teacher. Him and there's others. Gary Chester, one that I looked up to, Alan Dawson, just because the legacy that they leave from not just playing, and Tony Williams. Tony was like, Alan Dawson is one of the best drummers that's ever been, and that's not me making that up. That's just fact.
Yeah.
So when you have these endorsements about these guys that are known for their teaching, it says a lot. And then,
go ahead. Well, I think with Dom, just to button that up, was that great player. Everybody that we're talking about is a phenomenal player on different levels or whatever. But Dom was the one that we list where like he was the prototype to Rich. He was the prototype for that. Not influencer necessarily, but the inspiro drummer, the inspiring teacher. He was the impetus to like so many people learning that, I'll reach out to younger players and help mentor them into their productivity. He was the guy that really did that. Whereas like the Chesters and the Chafies and stuff like that, the Dawsons, they were just monsters. And we gravitated to them and bought their books and learned all the groupings. we all did that same stuff, but they weren't necessarily like the inspiration. They were the wealth of information that we could draw from. And if they inspired us, they inspired us. Dom's goal was to inspire. And the teaching was almost secondary. The specifics of like, do this thing with your hands wasn't really his thing. Play drums because you love it was his thing.
Yeah.
And then and then this week, of course, we lost Aaron, who is, he hadn't been a known quantity as long as Dom, but I truly believe that, and I posted this in my stories the other day, I truly believe that I think that 06 or 08 Modern Drummer Festival, whichever the thing, that clip where he's doing Caught Up, that Usher clip, I'm pretty sure, and here's the thing, I'm going to tangent just for a second. People call it gospel chops. I don't love that term. I understand it's the same thing people say 6-stroke roll when they're really talking about 6 tuplets that are the 6-stroke roll sticking. I understand what they mean when they say gospel chops, and I guess that's okay to use it just to streamline the conversation. But it's stuff we've heard Vinny do on Joe's Garage in Tinseltown Rebellion 40 years ago. So it's like, it's linear drumming, and it's just beat displacement and linear drumming and fills and stuff like that. It's been done, but he was that moment was the moment that just shifted everything into adding that kind of Southern spice to the linear drumming and turning it into that gospel style. He was the one moment. And if it occurred prior to then, somebody's going to DM me or you and be like, you're wrong, it was so-and-so back in 86. But the bottom line is that moment when he did that Usher tune at that clinic, or that performance, that was the moment that everybody suddenly became aware of the difference between the prog fusion linear style fills and concepts that we had heard Vinny, Terry, and other guys do, and this new thing that would become gospel drumming or whatever. But Aaron really, he sparked that. He at least sparked the awareness for a lot of us of that. And my God, what a monster he was.
Yeah, is it just an insanely incredibly skilled player, and just from what I've heard, I did not know Aaron. An incredibly kind man.
He was really sweet when I met him. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it leads me to, because of what you talked about. He was kind of the impetus at that moment, 2006, 2007, whatever that date was, of the Modern Drummer Fest, which I miss those festivals, by the way. But,
me too.
Of kind of bringing that to the forefront of a very chops heavy type of a style.
Yeah.
But Aaron understood what the job was. And I think as I teach and the internet, so I guess, everybody wants to say, oh, my generation was special. Sure, everyone's is. But mine was weird in that we had an analog childhood and a digital teenage college, up like end of high school, college. So I'm 42. And that was different. I didn't know it at the time, but it's like, oh, this is two different ways of doing things in the world, right? I can remember whenever like email became the thing, and it was like, hey, there's this thing called the internet. What apparently you get on there, and it's like and I'm a teenager, and we're discovering like all these things, and so at the risk of us sounding like those old guys on the Muppets or whatever that show is, where they're just up in the balcony, talking stuff about everybody. At the risk of us sounding like those, I think that the job of the drummer over the last 10, 15 years has started to get a little bit lost. And so I have a lot of students that come in and they don't actually understand what the role of a drummer is, first and foremost. And then all the other stuff, yes. And, as my dad would say, he was a pastor, yes and amen to all that too. But the role of actual working drummers, like when I was coming up, the reason, that Vinny worked so much is because he understood what his role was in each musical situation. The reason Steve Gadd worked so much, Jeff Beccaro, and Paul Lime here in Nashville,
sure.
Eddie Bayers, they understood the job. And I think that so often clips like that Modern Drummer Festival are pushed to the forefront. And so you have new drummers that come in and they go, oh, that must be what we do. That must be what drummers do. And so one of the first things I do with students is we learn a song. Like within the first couple lessons, we have learned a song, and we are playing to music, and we're keeping time, and I emphasize over and over, this is our job. Our job is to support the song. So if you're playing prog rock, you better play all the notes. Like, yeah, that's your job, But also, Neil Peart kept incredible time. You have these drummers, Mike Portnoy, he keeps incredible time. Yes, they know when to do that thing, but you gotta understand what the job of the drummer is first and foremost. Elvin Jones said it. He said, the time's non-negotiable. Everything else, icing on the cake. It's fun, but the time, it's non-negotiable. That's our job, So I kind of wanted to kick the bag around with you about this topic, kind of, not piggybacking off of, but kind of using Aaron Spears as kind of a starting point for, he worked with everybody. Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, Usher, everyone. Incredibly talented. You don't work with that many people if you're always playing on top of their music instead of playing their music. And so I kind of wanted to, I felt you might be a good person to dig into this with.
I have opinions.
So this is one thing I love about Kevin, everybody. Kevin has opinions always, and will always let you know what they are. Yeah. And that, I think that's actually a character trait that too many people miss. I can't handle the passive aggressive, just tell me what you need.
Nah, I have opinions, and I'm willing. I will say that I feel I may only be confident about one of my traits in a positive way, and that is that I am perfectly willing to, as you said, to use your term, kick the bag around if I'm wrong, or if someone wants to update my perspective. Or teach me theirs. I'm perfectly willing to hear it. I will say the problem, not the problem, but one of the burrs on this topic is that it isn't nearly as clean a cut as everyone thinks. Pocket over chops, job over ego, blah blah blah. It isn't that clean, and I will. What I mean by that is that I will start by saying everything gets perverted. Aaron does a clip where he's doing his thing, and now 25 years later, it has been perverted into, that style has been perverted for a lot of people into just being a kind of an ego fest.
Yeah, and I will say, I'll jump in real quick. If you speak, I was talking to Daru about this in an interview, and that's available on the podcast too. If anybody wants to go listen to that incredible interview, he's such a great guy,
sweetheart. And
that's what we were talking about, the role of gospel drumming. That's actually not gospel drumming. That's whenever it comes down to it, this is not gospel drumming. I was raised a pastor's kid. My dad, we worked in a lot of inner city black churches, and I grew up around some of that. And getting to, what's that?
That's not what they do.
No, it's not what they do. So even they sit there and go, yeah, that's not the job.
That's not the term. That's not the right term.
Exactly. Yes, correct.
But what occurs is that there has been with the advent of social media, there has been a split in what the roles are, because now, as we know, you can make a very good living without ever having a gig. Mm-hmm. You can do it from home. You do it from a small studio. You have a studio. I have a much cheaper studio than yours, but I can work from it. Now, with some interfaces and some mics and the right hashtags and some hot licks, you can get lucky and make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, way more than I make. I made $114,000 last year. Just the God's honest truth of it. And that's everything. That's doing Jon, putting some clinics together, doing a couple of sessions. I don't hustle, so I probably could have doubled that if I had really just gone after it. But I made a decent living. Mm-hmm. Almost none of it, none of it, 0% of it came from money I get from, that. My Instagram has 8,000 followers or something. I don't have, I don't make money from the internet. But I know people that make twice as much as me that have never played a gig. And so that is possible. And because that's possible, now we can't say the role of a drummer is blank, because now the role of the drummer isn't necessarily to play music with other people. It can be if you choose to. So I think the problem is for people like you that teach primarily for a living or as a big component of their persona and their life. Now it's defining with these students, what is it that they would like to be? Mm-hmm. So are you, and I'm not going to, I used to say, are you in it for the fame or are you in it for the music? As if I was wearing like a turtleneck and playing bongos and judging everyone. Now it's really just an honest question. Do you want to just make some money and just not have a regular gig and play drums and have some fame? Does that dopamine rush, is that enough for you? If so, be an internet drummer. You can make it happen. It's possible. And you can do it with all the hot licks in the world, all the sextuplet based linear things that you can cram into a bar. Great. You can do it. Or does music pull you? And are you interested in performing with other people and like locking in with a bass player and like really feeling something? Or do you want to compose? Are you interested in learning other instruments to not because you want to be a virtuoso piano player, but because you want it to help your drumming? You have to kind of separate the two and choose, and you don't have to choose one exclusively, but you just have to know what your thing is, where your heart is. And
this is I want to interrupt you, but I do want to, because I wind up talking to students about this more often than not. I just did a poll over on my YouTube channel, and I said, hey, here's what's the biggest issues in your drumming right now? What are you struggling with the most? 45% of the 1,500 people, 1,600, something like that answered this said, I don't know what to work on. 20% said lack of motivation. And this is a different thing. So we have all of this information out there, but they don't know what to work on because they haven't put purpose with their passion. And if you don't put the purpose with what your passion is, you're not going to know it, because you're wandering generality, as Zig Ziglar used to say. And if you don't know where you're going, then I guess anywhere is okay. What was that? What's that book? Anyway, I'll think of it in a minute. Yeah. But it's like if you don't know where you're going, anywhere is okay. And then you lose that motivation because you don't see the progress. It's kind of this cycle. And I believe they don't know what to work on because they don't know why they're playing the drums.
They don't know their purpose.
Yeah, I talked to a drummer and he said, we were working on stuff. He said, I'm really unmotivated. He said, honestly, I want to play in my buddy's country band. I said, well, are you doing that? He said, yeah. I said, well, then why are you practicing jazz right now? He said, I don't know. I said, let's switch that over to some shuffles, maybe learn about the blues, but let's focus on you're getting outside of your passion. Does that mean that if you're a country drummer, you don't ever learn jazz? No. But when we get too far from the purpose of what we're doing, I have doctors and lawyers that take from me, right? They play the drums for stress relief. Like they've been doing heart surgery all day. They don't want to come home and be nickeled and dimed about their drum exercise by their teacher, right? So with those students, I have to keep it in that lane. And I'll even tell them, I'll be like, hey, you're putting too much pressure on this. This is supposed to be a release for you. If this is not a release, it's not. You're outside of your purpose. Let's struggle to be as good as we can be at this. But you have to remember, and so many people, they don't define, why am I doing this?
Right.
Why?
And they can find the line if they want to kind of cerebrally kind of use the context through. They can take like non-secular music turned into the secular jazz, turned into blues, turned into shuffles, turned into Appalachian, turned into country. They can track it to what they're now doing with the Randy Rogers band or on this cover they're doing or whatever, for sure. But really just locking into your purpose of being like, okay, well, why am I doing this? I think a lot of it may also be because there's so much information now, they get overwhelmed with options. Like I know that we always laugh when we go to restaurants and we're like, I'm vegan, so I'm typically go to places where I kind of know what I'm going to eat anyway. But like if you open up a menu that's like Denny's size and it's like 6 panels and it's just too much stuff, like I'll end up being like, I'll have a burger because it scares me.
The Cheesecake Factory.
It's too much info. Oh my God. They may as well give you a 3-ring binder.
Yeah, 32 pages. And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Cheesecake? so like, I think a lot of that happens with the internet and with this topic, and people are like, well, there's so much I can do. I want to do it all. Well, of course, we all want to do it all. We'd all love to be millionaires. Life would be easy if we all won the billion lottery. Like, we've all dreamt of like, what would I do first? The old dog sanctuary, or buy all my friends' houses? I don't know, everything. But like what it boils down to is, I think they can boil it down to an essence thing first, and this might help some of your students. If you're just like, first off, do you want to create and perform music with people? Cool. Do you care if it's something you created or not? If you don't, maybe a hired gun path is yours. What genre do you like? You can make it big ballpark stuff and just kind of inch it down to where I know that I like performing with people. So I love studio environment. I love touring. I also love the excitement of touring because the people, as there's a feedback to it, and there's that no net circus thing to where like it's all on me. Like, yeah, I'm not the band leader, and yeah, I'm not the artist, but let's be honest. When that downbeat hits, I'm responsible for everything for the next 106 minutes. And then when I'm done, I go boom, boom, sticks down, and now I relinquish control back to the people in control. But I like that fear, that excitement. So I like that. So if somebody were like, the other day I was taking a walk with JoJo, and John got sick this week. I'm supposed to be in Billings, Montana tonight, and John has COVID, so we're off this week. And I was like, oh wow, I'm kind of bummed I'm not doing gigs this week, but I like taking this walk with my dogs and my lady. And I was like, maybe it wouldn't be bad if I were just like a full-time session guy. And she was like, you'd miss playing live. And I was like, yeah, I would. I can tell you that if somebody gave me $1 million a year to be to play like every lick I could come up with in my house, and just like be an internet guy, I certainly wouldn't mind the bread, but that wouldn't satisfy my purpose. That wouldn't satisfy me as a 50-year-old man who's been doing this since he was 20. Like, that wouldn't feed me. It wouldn't make me feel good. I'd love to grow my account, and I'd love to have 100,000 followers, and I'd love to spread this a little bit and interact with people for sure. But I don't think I could ever make it just my only thing. Right. But so I know my purpose, or at least part of it. So I think that a lot of people kind of miss it, and they pervert things down to where if they're young and they don't have people like us that are older that are willing to go, hey, find your purpose. I'm not going to judge you. Let me help you devise a way to get to where you want to get, but first we have to define what you are. I think without that, they will watch Aaron just blister through a song, and they'll go off. They'll learn the mechanics of it without learning the purpose, and they'll forget to note that his pocket throughout was exceptional.
Was a mile deep.
Yeah. So now you get these guys where I see them all the time, and their captions will be really arrogant things like, yeah, just showing off my groove, and my pocket is irreplaceable and stuff like that. And then you listen to it, and they're playing a beat that's just, it's kind of it's in time, but their limbs aren't necessarily in time with each other, and they can't stop themselves from like doing stuff on the hi-hat and tinkling on the, they're just constantly spewing stuff. And it's like they miss the point of what Aaron was doing because it's been repeated so many times, and social media allows that it allows stuff to be repeated so many times that you might see the 400th copy of something that kind of doesn't have the essence of the original thing. And that's kind of why I said that like Aaron's thing was kind of the original thing that made us all go, oh, because it was beautiful. It was this beautiful painting,
Dave King talked about this in an interview he did with me. That's also available on the podcast YouTube channel. On this podcast, you can just search his name. Incredible drummer with.
I'm scared of Dave. I'm scared of
Dave. And he's when COVID happened, I immediately he started teaching, and that's actually when I met Kevin. Was actually whenever you. That Hauser gig ended for you, and you were kind of in that little dark spot. That was when I booked a lesson with you. I still take lessons every chance I get. I usually go in with a purpose of like, this is kind of what I want to hash through with you. So I did the same thing with Dave King, because he never taught anymore since he was traveling all the time, but he was home. So I booked a couple lessons, and anyway, he came on and he was talking about, we referenced Alan Dawson earlier. He's saying, because it's kind of funny. I took from two of Alan Dawson's students, so I got it kind of not directly from the source, but very close to the source, right? And so I was able to understand the mechanics, but also the essence of why we're doing this. And Dave said, you have all these guys that go through and they learn syncopation, and now I can do it with this, and I can read the line with this, and I can do it with this. And he said, and the ride cymbal becomes this lame kind of just, it's there. It's a pattern that you're also playing. Yeah. And he said, instead of it's the thing, everything else revolves around it and under it. This is the thing. He said, so I see these players and they have a very lackluster ride cymbal pattern, which in jazz, that's it.
They throw away the ride so they can do the syncopated kick drum, snare drum work, because that's all the height, and they throw away. So they treat the ride cymbal like the chain that holds the buoy to the ocean floor instead of the ocean. It's all of it, and this is just like stuff floating, But I get his point. He scares me less now after hearing that. I mean, he's just a frightening drummer, and I would love to. I do lessons as well. I've taken them from Elitch, especially, and Elitch isn't just a physical thing, but he helps with that a lot. The release of tension and understanding kind of what your body is doing. And I would love to take like Juliana or Dave just to get my mind. So it's like, I will lock down sometimes and be like, the freedom of vocabulary. I may even have a vocabulary, but I'm kind of not free to use it sometimes.
That's actually what the discussion with Dave was about. There was a lot of things I felt I could play, but I couldn't access them. If that makes sense. So they were there, but we hadn't built a hallway to them where I could live with them all in the same place. And he had some incredible exercises that he gave me.
Well, sidebar, to be fair, you and I are also hired guns in a genre of music that any genre of music doesn't matter, but we are, John doesn't care if I play what Miles played on the record or Lonnie played on the record or what I played on something. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. Live is different than he just play what you want. I hired you to scare people. So I get to do whatever I want. But it is still within the confines of a 3.5 minute song that has, organization, when you look at Juliana play with St. Vincent, it's not the same as his improv gigs, right? Mm-hmm. I've seen him at Vanguard with McCaslip and those guys, and just like my eyes were falling out of my head. He left blood on the floor, and it was just like, oh my God, this is just a night of vocabulary stabbing me in the heart. And then, but that's free. So that is full expression. You and I have their restraints. I can't just express the color green on a Jon Pardi gig. I've got to lead the band to the bridge.
Yeah, and the gig I'm on right now is the lead singer Wes is very specific about what he wants. Actually,
sure.
He's very specific. And so you walk that line of trying to deliver to them what they need, trying to deliver what the music needs, and then trying to find the depth in that ocean. So in other words, not just looking at it as, man, it's just this simple, trying to figure out, okay, how can we as our artists and musicians make this a deeper experience than just 1 and 3 on the kick, 2 and 4 on the snare, eights on the hi-hat. And so I dive deep into how deep we play in the pocket. Are we playing the front or the back of the beat? We've dove deep with front of house into the tones of the drums.
I do that every day.
And how are those, are those appropriate for what we're playing? Is that, and I'm adding voices just because, I feel it works with the music. And that's actually the biggest compliment I get on the gig, is because I don't tell anybody about that work. That's just the pro work, right?
Yeah.
And when they come up and they say, what drums are you playing? Because those are perfect. And I'm like, thank you. Because I've been working on that. And so you have to find the artistry in it within the confines of the gig you have. But, our jobs as drummers, Grant works for me, great guy. He's a drummer too, and he said something the other day that really struck me. He said, drums are the easiest instrument to play, but they're the hardest to master. He said the entry to them, it's very easy. You can walk up and pick up sticks and you're playing. You don't have to know chords. You don't have to, you can play the drums very easily, but to master them takes a long time because we've got all 4 limbs and things like that. Whereas I think the entry for guitar is a little bit harder. You have to understand what the guitar is, how to tune it first, how to,
Well, show a baby a set of bongos and a guitar and they'll slap both.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, the job we as drummers and that I spend time talking with students about is trying to define exactly what you said. What's your why? Why are you doing this?
And when they find that purpose, and here's the thing, it's not really, it's less difficult than it should be. If it is I just really want the notoriety and the fame, and I love working on math. I saw a post of some guy on Instagram, and I forget his name. And honestly, if I remembered it, I probably wouldn't say it anyway, because the guy's kind of a jerk. His interaction with people is really combative and really aggressive, right? And I was for a while, I was reading his retorts to people, and here's the reason: his stuff is not musical. He is just chopping. And every clip is him just chopping, or him with somebody in a park on their kit, they're chopping, and it's all head cutting. And he played for some prog math band or whatever 1,000 years ago, and that's his thing. That's the only thing he did. And he's real aggressive about I don't take endorsements, I don't do this, I'm just here for the blah blah blah. And for a while I was like, man, this guy's kind of a jerk, And then I saw one post where it just kind of changed everything for me, and because somebody was clowning him for not being able to play music, and he was like, yeah, I don't care. He owned it, and I was like, what am I reading? This guy owned it. And he was like, yeah, I don't care. I'm not here to play music with other people. This is my channel. I'm not here to get free sticks. I'm not here to get free heads. I don't care if you like how my drums are tuned. They're tuned flat so I can play quickly. And I am trying to push myself mathematically to see what physically I am capable of doing behind this kit. This is the only reason I'm here. And I was like, oh, well, I stand corrected. By all means. Continue, sir.
It makes sense now.
I was like, oh, okay, well, that's okay. So there are people like that out there that want to do that. And if somebody said, I think people are embarrassed to say, man, I really just want to be Instagram famous and I want to make some money from home and play licks. Okay. You shouldn't be embarrassed by that, because now that is a thing that you can do. But for those of us that are like you and I would bet most of your students and most of the people that subscribe to your channel, what do you have, a gazillion subscribers now?
Probably a gazillion one.
Yeah. A little more than a gazillion. I would bet that 90% of the gazillion, whatever the number is, I would bet that they just want to play music, and they grew up, whether they grew up listening to Lady Gaga or the Cars or Zeppelin or Count Basie, doesn't matter. They probably want to play music with other people, because that's kind of where most of us kind of get off. And if that is the thing, it really isn't that hard. You just, you find yourself in a position, and then now that you've defined you have to define everyone else. So I got into my gig with Jon, and I started to define the rest of the band. Are they overplayers? Are they underplayers? Are they playing this strict? Are they playing this safe? Are they passionate players? Are they painting pictures? What does Jon want? Then you start to go out. If I'm playing in a band with you and we're double drummers, I'm gonna be like, oh, what does Steven want from this? Okay, am I gonna do the flashy stuff, or am I doing pop? You just start to define other people and the music. What does it need? What does it require? And then that's when you get to the thing where you're really pulling it off. Whether you have the gospel or linear chops or not, doesn't matter. It really boils down at that point to, can you define what serves this moment? Is it taking, it's kind of like people don't want to give themselves credit, but we are all producers when we play music live and in the studio, and we have to make the decision whether a producer is telling us to or not. We have to make the decision what takes this thing and makes it a better version of the thing. Mm-hmm. And it can be boiled to some esoteric statement of what color, what tempo, what color, what blah blah blah, or does this need brushes, rods, or sticks? Everything we make is a choice of production and of support. And it's funny, I was about to use Carter Beauford as an example, because if you put Keltner in the DMB, it probably wouldn't ring the same, and Keltner's the greatest. Mm-hmm. And the reason I bring that up, I laughed. My sister, I'm sitting here, my sister just sent this.
Oh, nice.
She was like, look who I'm having coffee with.
Jeez.
But we're all from Charlottesville, so he used to live down the street, and we've been friends forever. But it's just kind of funny that like I was bringing up Carter, and right then I saw a picture of his face with my sister.
That's hilarious.
I guess they're in Florida, or no, they're probably in Charlottesville. Anyway, I make the joke about Kaliud all the time. People are like, well, they love to slam on Meg White, and I'm like, yeah, you know who would have screwed up the White Stripes? Vinny.
Yeah.
You know,
it would have been a different.
Yeah, boom, chop, boom, doom, doom, doom. You know, like it's an easy joke to make. Now, is Vinny so great that he would have known what to do and just played it like that? Played it right? Yeah, of course he would. But everybody's thing has their thing. And I remember a session I did years ago for like Pontiac commercial or something, and my friend Jackson was the producer, and he was like, it's not sloppy and indie enough. It needs to sound like that pirate stomp, clap, ha stuff, where it's just kind of loose and indie and dumb. And we kept trying, and it was a 90-second spot, Stephen. I mean, I'm a pro. I should have knocked this out in 100 seconds.
Right.
And I just couldn't make it right. I was playing it. I was doing all the notes right. I was doing all the choices. They were correct. I swear to you, they were right. And it just didn't feel right. And we went and got lunch. And when we came back, I was like, I think it's because I'm not sloppy. It's because I've been doing this for so long that I have an inability to not play to some level of precision. And I set up left-handed. And so I went, and I just played. I played like I did when I was 14 because I cannot play left-handed. My left foot is garbage. My left arm is garbage. And I did it once, and he was like, "That's it. Go home. Check's in the mail." So, all of this plays to like, you have to choose what you are. You have to choose what you would like to express, what you would like to be. And you don't have to like lock yourself to it. It's not like I'm saying everybody now takes issue with whatever you say, kind of no matter what. And that's what's created this thing where we're all so like politically correct. But like, I'm not saying you have to just choose. I'm going to be an internet guy, or I'm going to be a session drummer. You don't have to choose. You could be a drummer for everyone, but you have to know what you are at your core. Are you, it's as simple as, are you a good person? Or are you a bad person? It's just as simple. What do you want to, why do you want to make music? Can you just not? Because I just ran to it. It was the only thing that kind of, I felt loved me back when I was a kid. So I liked the math of it, which is why I love the linear drumming. I don't love a lot of drummers' channels on Instagram, but you can't get me off Joe's Garage once I started, because so it's not that I don't love the notes. The purpose is what drives me and what titillates me, right? So I think that for everyone, you're on the right track when you're just like, hey, find your purpose and define it. And it doesn't have to be really tight. You just have to decide, like, what do you want from this? Mm-hmm. And I think when they're like, well, I just want to get better, that's kind of a cop-out. All of us want to get better, kid. We're all going to be as good as we're going to be right before we die. So that's kind of a BS answer. Let's dig a little deeper and have an honest discussion. What do you want? Would you like to create something? Do you love the roar of the crowd? Do you just want some money? Because we can kind of throw that one away because all of us would love to make money playing drums. So let's pull that aside and just go, do you want the audience feedback? Do you love the precision of like nailing it in the studio and when the red light is on and that pressure of this lasts forever and I nailed it in 2 takes? Is that what turns you on? Do you like the precision of drumline? Do you like, that is the conversation. And once you have that, everything else is kind of easy, I think, Mm-hmm. It's just mechanics. It's just repetition and mechanics after that. It's like making an omelet. Oh, I want eggs. Okay, well, here's how you make an omelet. The first 40 are going to really be bad. You got to get that flip is real hard to get. But once you get it.
Yeah, you got it going, right?
You're an omelet maker.
Exactly. Well, and this it's just kind of a conversation. I know we're kind of coming up on time here. We both got to scoot, but I just have this conversation more and more, especially at the camps that we do. I find we're spending more time discussing the mental life and how that interacts with the drumming than we are the drums. Because I'm like, I had the last camp we had a very accomplished businessman, and Man, couldn't find 15 minutes to practice in a day. Couldn't find 15 minutes to practice. It was too, and I told him, I said, I actually can't do a thing for you until you figure that out. Why don't you have 15 minutes in your day to do something that you like? You got to figure that piece out, because I can't help with that. You know, it's obvious you want to do it. You want to be good at it. It's obvious that you are a high achiever, but you don't have this much spare time in your day to do that. You got to fix that problem. That's a bigger issue, you know?
For sure.
Yeah. And so I think this whole thing of purpose, especially with them playing and having that drive, which for a lot of people, and that's why I'm like, the job of drummers is not, it doesn't have to be all those licks. It can be, it doesn't have to be. If you want to play music, like you said, the entry level to being able to play music, that is very achievable for you and at a very quick pace. It's like how long does it take you to get good enough to play a pickup game of basketball? You know,
not much.
It's not that long. Now, if you want to play in the pros,
and that's why we do start with time. You know, get in, learn how to play 2 and 4. If it's in the pop idiom, of course, learn how to play 2 and 4. Learn how to play it reasonably in time between 60 BPM and 116. Most stuff is in there. Most. You know, get yourself 6 months in, get yourself a train beat together. You can get going with time. And then you can branch off from that. But I think that you're on the right track talking about the mental thing. And here's why. And I've said this before, and every time I say it, you know, most people like you will just be like, yep. And I've had students who go like, oh my God, like I've said something profound, but it doesn't seem profound to me. But I will say this. I use different examples, different times. Benny Greb is, my opinion, one of the real heaters right now. He's a sweet guy. It's just a staggering vocabulary, a ripping drummer. Benny Greb, you take Benny or Elitch or any of these guys that you watch and you're just like, oh, you infuriate me with your vocabulary and your quality of sound and your note placement and your, oh my God, your dynamics. Oh, you know, I just like, curses you, you know. But you take any of those guys, Aaron Spears, God love him, any of these people that really blow you away. And I promise you that unless you have an anomaly or you've had an injury, for most of us, we have the exact same amount of tendons. We have the exact same muscles, exact same bones. If you don't have, I have a buddy of mine that has cerebral palsy that plays. My buddy Ray was terribly burned, but he's still infinitely better than I'm ever going to be because he's
a killer player.
He's just worked. Oh yeah, Ray, you know, he's a staggering drummer, right? If you have people that have been injured or something's going on, they inevitably, there's just a different mountain they have to climb, and these people are proof that it can be. Ray is. I'm not going to catch Ray. I'm not going to catch his placement and his quality of sound. He's a better drummer. And, but for most of us that haven't faced these other challenges, we have the exact same bones, the exact same tendons, the exact same everything. So Benny and Dave and these guys, they weren't born with an advantage over you and I physically, technically. It's reps, it's perspective, it's the amount of work, it's the care, and it really is just the choices. What do you want to be? They wanted to develop this. Other people wanted to develop that. That's what's beautiful about drumming, is that you can love a Benny Greb and a James Gadsden and a Mickey Curry and a Paul Bostaff. You can freak out about Jeff Beccaro. You can freak out about like a Toto song and a Slayer song. That's what's gorgeous about drumming. You know, is that the other day I have this random playlist that was like, it went from green earrings, or it went from like it went from Babylon Sisters to a Slipknot tune. And I was like, you know what? I accept it. No notes, because it's the beauty of this. So really, once you decide what you want to be, you can chase it as far as you want. But what a lot of people don't get is that most of this is mental. All of these players that I'm listing, that I'm referencing, Carter Beauford or whoever, Manu Katchik, doesn't matter. We were all have the same tendons. You know, so why are they different? the amount of reps, the amount of mental focus, the amount of choices that they've made, because physically, most of us aren't a whole lot different from each other. So it really boils down to that personal choice and that personal decision of what you would like to be and what you would like your voice to be and how you go about developing that. And I think that, like, yeah, by all means, have conversations about the mental aspects of drumming. It should be more than the physical aspects, because we're in a society where it's like more and more difficult to like stay focused on you, and the hustle culture is keeping us all just like panicked to pay our bills because life's getting so expensive. I mean, I make a pretty good living, and Nashville is almost impossible to live in.
Yeah, it's really expensive. It's
so
really
like,
expensive.
You know, the world where people could be like, yeah, I'm going to move to LA right out of high school and I'm going to play for 10 years until I get a gig. And they're like, no, you're not. You're going to live 3 hours outside of LA and you're going to drive in when you can. It's not the same. Yeah. Life isn't the same. So really the mental approach to everything and the personal definitions, I really think that's just more important. At least it is for me. It's more important than the specifics.
I think it's the piece that everybody skips. And to kind of, you know, put a button on this, there's a great book if anybody wants to read about high achievement, high achievers, dissection of those people. There's a great book. I can give you lots of books. I read all the time. There's a great book called Grit, and they dissect high achievers. How did they get there? High achievers, it doesn't matter. Athletics, business, whatever you're a high achiever at. Writers, how'd they get there? What are the qualities? All those things. And grit is this one quality that they all have. Essentially, they just don't quit. And there's a section in there where they talk about, you know, these people LeBron James seems superhuman when he has a basketball in his hand. He seems like he's doing these things that are impossible for humans to do. But if you looked back at his day to day, as from his childhood all the way to where he is now, they said there was actually nothing special that he did that was all of a sudden this one day he made this leap and it was like, oh my gosh, you know, he's now a superhuman. They said every day they just did the next logical thing.
Yeah.
Whatever they had just achieved, they did the next logical thing and stacked that on top of that. And every day was one logical step in front of the others. And it was that grit that kept them going. And magnify that by 10 or 15 years, 10,000 hours, whatever you want to call it. You have all of a sudden it's like Gracin the Kretman is coming out and you're like, holy, where did this kid come from? You know? Yeah. And it's like, yeah, you didn't see him in his room all those years. Just, you know, he and I spoke about that. He had been sick for quite a few years and he said, I was just in my room every day. All I had was the drums. He said, I just played all day. And
you know what? I'm going to use him. First of all, and you can look at LeBron and go, hey, yeah, genetically he was predisposed to be like, he was 6'10", he had this beautiful thin body. Yeah, but lots of people that are 6'10" aren't as good at basketball as LeBron James. Yep. So it's the work, and there's a whole lot of people built like Michael Jordan that aren't Michael Jordan, right? Mm-hmm. Or Tiger Woods, or what, you know, whatever example you want to say. And Gracin is a good example. I don't know the kid. He's a really ripping drummer, but there will be things, as you know, over time he will have to adjust some things in his technique. Absolutely. Because self-taught stuff inevitably has to adjust out. But like, you know, it's way easier for people today. And this is my only point, my overarching point about, like, I don't hate social media, you know, but it makes it difficult. There's a stigma at this point in our lives, talking about mental illness and talking about they're talking about lots of stuff, right? It is way easier for people to grab something big, dumb, and easy to attack first, and go like, oh, I got to work on working paradiddles around the kit. And they can waste months doing that because deep down, they know they need to have a conversation with themselves about what they are and what they want and what they choose and what they're dealing with inside. What's driving them? Is it negative? Is it positive? Or, you know, what's their happiness level like? Yeah, blah, blah. But it's a scary conversation to have with yourself, much less for like your dude. Like if you and I are having coffee, like I refuse to have conversations and have friendships with people if they're unwilling to have a real conversation. I don't talk about the weather.
Yeah.
If we're having coffee, we're going to talk about like the divorce or whatever. We're talking shit.
Life here. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not gonna waste, I'm too old. I'm not gonna waste my life not having a real conversation. But a lot of people, especially younger folks, young men and women who are getting into this, they can't go like, okay, I need to boil this down. What's driving me? And those are the things that if you are willing to have that conversation, you're willing to define it, you can drive yourself towards the big goals, and you can start to apply that grit that you're talking about in the right ways to where like you get to where you want to get. Now Grayson's playing tours. I saw a clip of him the other day. He's doing his thing. I assume that's what he wanted to do. Well, guess what, kid?
Yeah, he's doing it.
Here it is.
And that's, to kind of wrap this up, this is a quote that I keep on my phone. It says, most inputs are useless and time is wasted in proportion to the amount that is available. And I put it on my phone so that every time I open it up, I go, am I just avoiding the real decision here? Am I just avoiding the real work? Am I looking at this phone just because I want to avoid something, So I think having those hard conversations with ourselves is, really important. And with friends, if you can have friends that will have those conversations with you and kind of corner you and help you drill it down. It's really important. Now, where can people get a hold of you? Is your website, I'm assuming, bigrightfoot.com?
bigrightfoot.com. I'm a little remiss with that, but I'm going to load some stuff up. I got some plans, and I'm filming a series. I might pick your brain about that actually later. And Big Right Foot on all the other medias. Yeah. All the socials are just Big Right Foot.
Yeah, Kevin is an incredible teacher. He's an incredible player. So take the opportunity, look him up. He does. Thanks, he does remote sessions, and so definitely look him up and pick his brain.
Tell him to go to go find my YouTube, because I want them subscribers like old Steven's got. I want them drum shed subscribers.
Go find Big Right Foot on YouTube. I'm assuming that's what
I think it's the Big Right Foot.
The Big Right. Big change there. Big branding change.
Yeah,
there.
I don't think I could find Big Right. I don't know. It's it is what it is.
I like it. Well, man, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Steven.
To hang out today.
Thanks for having me. Good seeing you again.
Hey, you too, man. We'll talk
virtually.
Soon.
All right, man. Talk to you soon.
See ya.